Hello all, John here. Here are some thoughts for this second Sunday of Easter, also known as Divine Mercy Sunday. Welcome, thank you, and on seeing and believing and seeing. When I was a kid, I used to very much enjoy laying on the carpeted floor of my folks' living room and opening up in front of me the Chicago Tribune comics section and reading the comics. And one feature I turned to every week without fail was Ripley's Believe It or Not. It's long gone from the Tribune now, but I think it's still in syndication elsewhere. And at least last time I was there was a Ripley's Museum up at the Wisconsin Dells. Founded by Robert Ripley, Wikipedia explains, the franchise deals in bizarre events and items so strange and unusual that readers might question the claims. Crazy. It's crazy in part because I remember thinking, even as a little kid, that the Ripley folks could make up all sorts of things if they wanted to. They didn't have to prove anything. It seemed to me that Ripley and company, they weren't passing these stories along as necessarily true. They were just passing stories along. Believe it or not, right? Accordingly, it was on me to leave the stories on the page there on the floor of my folks' living room, or to embrace them as gospel. And of course, speaking of gospel, Ripley comes to mind as I consider the evangelist John's entry for today. It's the gospel about Thomas not being with the rest of the disciples in the locked room when Jesus shows up post-resurrection. Only John writes about this, by the way, and I think I'm correct in saying that the church gives us this same reading every second Sunday of Easter. Most of the other readings are on a 3-year cycle, 3-year loop. But this one's like the North Star. It stays put. As such, it must be pretty important. We all know the story. Jesus appears the first time and Thomas is not there. We have seen the Lord, his friends tell him later. Believe it or not. Thomas opts for the latter with a caveat. He says, unless I see the mark of the nails in his hand and put my finger into the nail marks and put my hand into his side, I will not believe. A week later, the disciples are again in the locked room. This time Thomas is with them. And now when Jesus shows up, Thomas says something just extraordinary. But Jesus begins the conversation. After again extending peace to all, he turns to Thomas directly and he says, put your finger here and see my hands, and bring your hand and put it into my side, and do not be unbelieving, but believe. Thomas now has no need, however, to do the things he said he needed to do in order to believe. Instead, he simply answers, my Lord and my God. I tell you, as far as professions of faith go in the book or anywhere, nothing tops this one. Seeing is believing all the world over. At least so contends Cervantes' Don Quixote character, famous for tilting at windmills. But here's something else to consider, courtesy of the late English poet Ralph Hodgson. Some things have to be believed to be seen. Ponder that for a second. Some things have to be believed to be seen. When Thomas sees the risen Lord, he recognizes Jesus as God, a rare thing in Scripture, by the way, at least per my reading. And he no doubt now more clearly sees what Jesus told him at the Last Supper. I am the way and the truth and the life. But back in that locked room, Jesus says further to Thomas, have you come to believe because you have seen me? Before giving a nod to all the rest of us, blessed are those who have not seen and have believed. He is risen, my friends. Believe it or not. We have chosen the former, and hence I pray we all more clearly see. Thanks. Peace, John.